Mario Hezonja, born February 25, 1995. Today's feature was given a lot of nicknames growing up, like Croatian Jordan and Super Mario, but the one that stuck with him was the Croatian Superman. He was called this because there was nothing on the floor he couldn't do, and for his elite athleticism that had him flying around the court and taking off for dunks that in any league was guaranteed excitement. It's not usual, especially 10 years ago, to see European prospects with the athletic ability Hezonja had early on in his journey, which made him a standout prospect and on the NBA radar since he was 15-16 years old. At just 13, he played his first professional game, and since then, the story on his potential was nothing less than NBA. Prior to the NBA, scouts also raved about his perfect shooting form and sweet release, where he'd elevate using his athleticism and barely follow through, resulting in all net from deep range. He was 6'6", and on offense, he shined, having an important role in the system. And when he wasn't, he was usually one of those guys that showed flashes of what we're used to seeing from American stars. So his ceiling was set very high and his potential grew wings after teams before the draft saw him in workouts. In this atmosphere, I could see how a guy athletic like Hezonja, with a JJ Redick form as far as textbook, young and on the radar with scouts waiting on his eligibility since
A minor.
Realistically, even though in hindsight, a prospect like Mario Hezonja came with a lot of risk. Yes, he had natural basketball abilities, was advanced at a young age versus his peers, and played the game at the pro level earlier than most players could think of, but on those levels, he was always a middle-of-the-road or below-average prospect as far as final production. He averaged 2 points and 2 rebounds in the EuroLeague 2012-13 and played limited minutes the following season, yet the hype was still there, expecting him to declare for the 2014 NBA draft, the first year he was eligible to. Hezonja decided to allow himself to develop another year, entering in 2015 instead. Miles Turner during the draft was assured by his agent Orlando would take him at 5, but was shocked to hear Mario's name called instead, to which he reacted with an emphatic "Who?"
My dog!
Which I'm sure Devin Booker asked himself as well, as he fell to the 13th pick, becoming an All-Star for the first time in 2020 and 3 times since then. Mario, of course, would last just 5 seasons in the league before he became frustrated with all the pressure and finger pointing toward him, returning to Europe in 2021 and has had much better success. Better yet, he's admittedly happier than his time under the brightest lights of the NBA. Neutralizing Superman was a difficult task in the magazines and movies, but for Hezonja, all it took was a humbling NBA experience. He was supposed to be Dirk, Luka, and other Euro stars balling in the league, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Mario Hezonja is a 6'6" small forward shooting guard from Dubrovnik, Croatia that, like mentioned, was a highly sought-after player at an early age. He played for his local pro team from 13 to 15 years old before moving on to Club Zagreb in 2010, winning the Nike International Junior Tournament and being named to an all-tournament team. He then moved to Barcelona to play for their club team FC Barcelona in 2012. Over the next 2 seasons, he'd play mostly a reserve role for the team. Then 2014-15, he joined the team's rotation, averaging 7 points and 2 rebounds in 15 minutes per game. Following the EuroLeague season, he entered the draft, where his game was expected to translate better in an NBA setting. Stunt number 1, drafted too high and to the wrong team. One mistake I see in the draft every single year is a player overly hyped that's a great risk, great reward type, and Mario Hezonja just might be the poster child for that. You ever seen those guys that look amazing in private workouts, but soon as the game starts they're a completely different player? That was Mario to an extent, and all wasn't entirely his fault. He was able to do this because at the time he had 2 of the biggest attractions for NBA teams for 20 plus years. He could jump out the gym and he had a great jump shot, One you'd videotape and show to your kids, and when he was on, he was automatic. Against chairs and personal trainers, certain skills were masked and unable to be picked apart in a competitive workout with a guy like, let's say, Patrick Beverley or a Rajon Rondo. In his workouts with Orlando, they loved him for his shooting and leaping ability and even changed their mind on an all but guaranteed commitment to Miles Turner for the chance to draft Hezonja after seeing him up close. He played in over 22 EuroLeague games and averaged 7.7 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. Looking back, he wasn't ready to join just any team, especially landing in Orlando, who were experiencing their worst down point as a franchise in complete rebuild mode in 2015, missing the playoffs altogether 3 years straight before Hezonja was drafted, and then all 3 of his seasons with the team. One thing I could tell Hezonja needed that was important to his growth was structure and a well-oiled machine around him that knew how to use him and almost lead him to his spots to be effective. The Magic were nowhere close to any of those things, but most importantly, they weren't stable at the time. He had Scott Skiles as his coach his rookie season, a coach notorious for not playing his rookies, and Mario was affected mostly by it. During Summer League, he looked great in the role of the star player being drafted 5th overall, but during the season, Skiles would use him sparingly and substitute him for minor mistakes. His next 2 seasons in Orlando, he had Frank Vogel and did even worse, winning 29 and 25 games. Mario by then losing confidence more and more as he never should have been taken so high and expected to be what his skills were not. Drafted to a team late first round where he could fall in line and add to the success was a more fitting role. At 5th overall, he was expected to be a star, something again his skills said he was not. Stunt number 2, ineffective skills. What good is having an ability you can't consistently use? Ask NBA scouts who saw Mario before the draft and raved about 2 things, his jump shot and his athleticism. Problem with those in the NBA was he didn't have that great a handle to set up athletic finishes in the lane consistently and no go-to moves off the dribble to be effective in the mid-range. As an athletic player, you need those first before you can get to a point you can elevate over people and finish. It's why Derrick Rose was so good and why Ja Morant is right now. They can get by defenders and in the lane at will. Once they do, their athletic abilities can shine. Hezonja was 6'6", but he played much smaller than his height as well, often avoiding contact, and because defenses knew that, it made him a one-dimensional player. Even more, seeing he couldn't get his deep shot to fall more than 31% from 3 for his career, 2 seasons shooting under 30. Defensively, though he was athletic, he struggled staying in front of faster, stronger small forwards, and at 6'6" was a bit undersized in that position as well, without great IQ and anticipation, something Mario wasn't able to develop in the NBA. He was basically an average to below average player in every category, except he was an elite jumper. But what good is that when you don't have much to consistently set that up? His best skills were made ineffective on the NBA level, and it frustrated him more than anything, admitting to losing confidence and his love for the game more and more in the league, especially when he got to the Knicks. Stunt number 3, signing with the Knicks. In so many words, Mario Hezonja said he regrets signing with the Knicks in 2018 and that decision was a huge mistake. He says the team over the course of the season began pointing fingers at him and created a pressured feeling in the organization that made him lose confidence and uncomfortable. He says the expectations of him coming in was to be a future all-star, but when he got there, he was barely cracking the rotation and given opportunity to show himself. He began questioning himself as confidence dwindled, yet he couldn't figure out what was wrong and why he was being overlooked. Talking about it in the media would only make his situation worse, so he compartmentalized it and it ruined his days in New York. Of course, not showing up in New York is basically a career killer, and in came the bus labels all around town, getting to where he needed a total change of scenery. After the season, he signed with the Portland Trail Blazers on another 1-year deal, playing 53 games at 16 minutes per, averaging 4.8 points. He was traded after the 2019-20 season to Memphis, who waived him weeks later. He returned to play in Europe, to which he said was a relief. He played in Greece and Russia before moving to Real Madrid in 2022, helping them win the EuroLeague in 2023. Hezonja says it's the happiest he's been in a long time, and also that he's not interested in an NBA return at the moment. All in all, Mario Hezonja's story is one of a guy that just didn't fit in the NBA or the American basketball style. He needs structure to be able to work as a part of something great, not the focus because he is great. He's best in the role of a star, but in the league he wasn't talented enough to be placed in that role or mentally strong enough to deal with not being the guy. He found peace on a level more suited for him, so salute to him, much respect. But for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.